You're watching Shift Happens Beyond the Boxes, where we take a look at the inner workings of the moving industry. Hey guys, Jason Bergenske here with Shift Happens. Today's our live stream. We've been trying to do them every other week. This last week we did not do one because it was 4th of July, or the last time we would have done one. So anyway, but I got Nick with me, our Director of Operations for both MoveitPro software and Lion's Den booking service. And we're going to take some questions today. We're going to allow some callers in. We will have some graphics up on the screen with the phone number. The phone number to call in if you want to speak to us live is 321-832-8225. Again, that's 321-832-8225. So anyway, let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and start with some of the questions that have come in. We do have some questions with that came on over Facebook. So let's kind of start with that. So how has the moving industry evolved over the past decade? So I'll kind of take that one, and then Nick probably can input in that. So Nick's been with us for 5 years?
Just over, yep.
Yeah, 5 years. So I pretty much grew up in the moving industry. My grandmother and my dad purchased J&J Metro Moving and Storage, which at the time had been open for over 20 years back in the 80s. When we sold it was in the 2020, I believe 2021, sorry. And it was 53 years old when we sold it. But anyways, I mean, a lot's changed, right? So, I mean, back in the 80s when my dad first came into the moving industry, the majority of customers was from the phone book. Mm-hmm. Which is, and we've talked about it in a few other podcasts, but for the most part, if you were a mover and you purchased, an ad in the phone book, if you could afford to put the money forward towards the phone book, your phone just rang. I mean, that's just where people, right? Google wasn't around.
Yeah.
And that was, how we built a big 7-figure moving company, multi-million-dollar moving company was the phone book, which as time went on, at one point we had a double page spread. So they called it a full truck. You have double page spread. So when you opened to this page, you literally had both sides, which was huge. And over time, obviously people stopped using the phone book more and more. And then obviously
it's not even around anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is, but like the phone book used to be for Central Florida was like that big just for Central Florida. And then all the around cities had their own. Yeah. Now it's nothing, but, so that was, I think, probably one of the biggest changes. Other changes were, back in the 80s, it was very unregulated. Back then, the DOT was not as much of a big thing. Moving companies could go across country. In the state of Florida back then, you did not need a mover's license. So to give you an idea, back in the 80s, and I don't know exactly the year that they started regulating it, when we submitted our license number is IM120, or was IM120, which meant we were the 120th application for the entire state of Florida to be a mover, right?
Awesome.
But we had been in business for years and years before that. Now they're up in the 3,000s, 4,000s. So that kind of shows how old the company was. But I think that's a big thing. Florida is somewhat regulated. Obviously, we have you have to have a license, you have to have insurance, you have to have all that stuff, which is a good thing. Some states, they still don't have much regulation. I believe Wisconsin's one of them. You've dealt with some, Nick, with some people.
I deal with most states that actually do have a lot of regulations. So like Texas and California and North Carolina.
Wait, California has regulations? I can't believe that. Most regulated
Texas
state.
is the only one that kind of throws me off. They have a lot of regulations for
being Texas.
Texas, I wouldn't think.
Yeah. Yeah. They have a wall yet?
They have their own wall of waiting.
Wrong wall. Different wall. So anyway, I mean, those are some of the things. And so I'll tell you, obviously when we started J&J, or when my family was in that, we had no CRM. Everything was done pen and paper. And if you're, and I feel pretty confident saying this, like if you run a moving company, and I don't care at what level you're at, whether you're, just renting trucks and you got one rental and you're going out and doing moves yourself, or you're running 100 trucks like some of our customers, you need a CRM. And back then we didn't have a CRM. Like it wasn't a thing, but neither did any of our competitors.
Right.
So
and nobody was digital back then.
Correct. But now the seamlessness of having a CRM, the automations, the AI that we've built in for doing automated follow-ups and tasks and all the stuff revolving around the sales process. If you're a moving company and you're apples to apples, oranges to oranges comparison, and one's moving, using CRM like ours, like MoveitPro software, and I'm sure a lot of the other softwares also, or you're one that's not using software at all, I can guarantee you, apples to apples, oranges to oranges, that's the only change or only difference. Our customer is going to beat your customer, your moving company up every day, all day long.
Not even just for the ease and simplicity of it, but the mistakes that you're going to make without even knowing it.
Yeah.
On paper, you can't track everything. You can't judge everything correctly.
Just the time savings. The time savings. The fact that you as a moving company owner can actually spend time building your company rather than doing paperwork, and I think is a big thing. So,
especially nowadays, most smaller companies, their owner is still on jobs. They don't have time to deal with paperwork while trying to talk to a customer while being at a different move.
Yeah.
It's just unreal.
Yeah. Yep. So I think that's a big thing. Over the last, several years, there's been some call centers for moving companies. That's a big, huge, awesome thing. Like I wish we had it back then. Sorry. Back in, the early time when we had J&J Metro, we had an answering service. Back when there was pagers, right? And so when my dad would leave the office at 5:00, he would *71 and then the answering service phone number or whatever the code is that you put on the regular back then landlines. And then all the phones, if someone called our moving company, it went to an answering service. But that answering service was just that, an answering service. They'd say J&J Metro, moving and storage, how can I help you? And if it didn't matter what the person said, the person could say, I need a move right now. I need an estimate for next month. I need whatever the thing was. All the answering service said was, oh, well, perfect. We're going to go ahead and write this down. We're going to send it over and you'll get a call back within 24 hours. Like that was standard back then. Yep. And so, there's several companies now. We're one. MoveBeast, Tim Krups is another great one. OnQ, don't know much about them, but they're also another one. So you got 3 sales call centers that are devoted to moving companies. I can't speak to OnQ's, but I know Tim does, along with us. We teach our salespeople to sell.
Yep.
Like they're not order takers. And that was a big difference and problem that we had with J&J Metro. Back then, we used to order or hire order takers. We weren't big sales. No. And we grew a big company, but bringing in and having to fight to get the business and teaching our employees how to rebuttal and how to be super positive on the phone and how to walk the customer through the process of the move and what you're going to do for them and being just super customer service in a real way, not being fake, not being a fake customer service, right? A voice, you know what I mean? But just being super caring about the customer is what our call center has done so well. I know Tim's, my buddy, is doing really well. If you're a customer of Smart Moving, I would contact Tim. Tim is a great guy and runs a tight ship over there. If you use MoveitPro or another one, you certainly can use ours. So yeah.
We definitely can't be order takers for the simple fact that with moving companies nowadays, they're calling 10 people, 10 movers, not just one. It's not like the phone book where this is the guy I'm calling. They're going out to 10 different people. So it's not really, again, the first person to get in contact with them usually has the best luck. So it is about quickness and urgency, but it's also about not being an order taker, about actually being sales and getting them to actually buy in right now. Because if they talk to somebody else, they're probably going with somebody else. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, that's a really good point. And like talking back to when we had J&J Metro. So I remember setting this up as a kid. I say kid, I was probably, 18, 19 years old or something. But a big problem, and that was before like there were CRMs, good CRMs for the moving industry. We used to get leads that would come in on our website. So my dad was one of the first early adopters of a website. Like got it back in the 90s. Paid probably, I don't know, 10 grand back then for a website, which was crazy money. And it's like, you look at the website that it was back then is like, no, terrible. Obviously it's changed since, but the leads would come into the email and then you hoped that your sales team would be checking the email and call. So we created, back then we had a server up there. And so I set up an automation that when the email came into the email box, it immediately printed it on a printer that we had set. It was like we were stockbrokers, right? It's coming out and it's hot, and we got it to where, for the most part, we could call someone within 10 minutes, which for us at that time was good. Our call center now, I think we're 2 minutes max. Like sometimes they come in and like the customer, literally our sales team will call them for Lion's Den. And the person will be like, I literally just hit submit.
They're still on our website.
But that's when you got to hit the customer. And that's what I'm saying. If you're competing against someone using a software like ours or a call center like ours, and you compare it to someone that's not using those systems, our customers are going to get the client every time.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's just the way it is. So anyway, hopefully that answered a couple of your questions. I'm going to go on. Let's go ahead. Another one here. This one came in from Facebook. Sorry, there's a few. Let me pick a good one. So how has technology impacted the moving industry? I kind of touched on that one, the last one. What are some common misconceptions people have about the moving process? So I'm not really sure necessarily specifically what you're meaning by that one, but here's what I can say is like, you need to have systems set up for every move you do. I see a lot of these guys first starting out as a moving company, and they are just late to every move because they're running late all the time. They're not strict on their guys. They're not taking out enough pads and dollies. They're running out of materials out on the job. Like, they're literally chasing their tail trying to get the job done. And you're never going to grow a company successfully that way, because you've got to run a tight ship. You need to run as a system, as a process, as a machine. And so, when we had J&J Metro, we rarely were late. Only times we would be late is if it was a second job or sometimes a third job, and either the first or second job lied about what they had. And so legitimately there was more stuff.
That never happens.
And never happens. But the person that was the second or the third job already knew, hey, if you're going to be the second job, there's a possibility. We're going to give you a 3-hour window. But you do have a job ahead of you. If you'd like to have a confirmed time, we can do first AM, and no matter what, we're going to be there at that time. Otherwise, if you're a second job, the other job's going to go before you. So those are some of the things that I think have been, part of us growing the company, is just instilling a culture of winning and doing the right thing and showing up to customers professional in uniforms, showing up ready, whatever it takes. We're here to get the job done. Like if my guys go into a job and they're bitching about the armoire they got to move, like, you're not going to work here. Like, you're here to move furniture. Like, don't get me wrong, it sucks. That's a big piece. But the customer doesn't want to hear you bitching about their armoire that's big.
Right.
Like, that's why they're paying hundreds or thousands of dollars for you to be there. And that's your responsibility to make sure your employees know that. Because when they're, like, the difference of someone walking into a house and there's an armoire that's 300 pounds, and don't get me wrong, it's a rough armoire, but totally doable. I'm not saying something crazy access or whatever. And the guys are in there like, oh man, that's a big piece, but don't worry, man, I got it. Like, we're going to get this thing out of here. We're going to wrap it up. Everything's going to be perfect. The difference of that statement versus the guys coming in and be like, oh man, that's huge, man. I don't know, man, my back hurts. Like, I don't want to, like, the customer has a completely different feeling, completely different feeling. And it goes so much further than just that feeling. That now is going to transpire further on down into the move that they're getting. They're going to have more reasons to want to dispute their bill. They're going to have more reasons to not want to refer you and all those things. And so you got to try and keep good guys, which the moving industry is a hard thing. But that's one of the big things. So
I took it in the other way. I get a lot of customers that I'm only doing 1 or 5 moves a month. I can't justify paying for a software. And that kills me, because whether you're doing 1 move a month or 100 moves a month, the software works the same way for both businesses. Yeah. And it's needed for both businesses. Yeah. If you're only doing 1 move a month and you get software, I promise you'll start doing 5 moves a month real quick.
Yeah.
And it'll just double from there.
Well, and I think that's a really good point. And the whole point of this podcast is not to boast about MoveitPro. Look, here's the thing. If you own a moving company, you need a CRM. I don't care if you use MoveitPro or not. To be honest with you, don't get me wrong. I'd love for you to use MoveitPro. I do believe we're the best moving software, period. But if it's the choice of you using a software or not, you need to use a software. Yep. And at the end of the day, you need to be, there's, a handful of us out there now, and you need to get with one because it's going to grow your business. Who do we have? Terminus Moving. The Terminus?
Yep, Terminus.
Yeah. Terminus Moving. There's a bunch, right? But this guy I got to meet. He came to one of our workshops. Where does he what part of the country is he from? Do you know?
Oh, don't throw that at me.
Sorry. Doesn't matter. Hey, Steve, if you can ask someone out in support real quick, what part of the country he's from? I'm just curious. And then just let me know in my headset.
Tyler Stanley.
So anyways, so he came to one of our grow workshops here in Orlando, and super raving fan of MoveitPro.
He joined us before he really started his company.
Yeah, he's from Georgia. So from Atlanta. So he came in. So if you're in Atlanta, Georgia, Terminus Moving, good guy.
Great guy.
Anyways, he came here, and I didn't know this, but he came to our workshop. He had been in operating already for a year or something. And he got up and stood in front of everyone and told everyone, like, hey, he's like, I don't understand why people don't get software. He's like, I literally didn't have my first job booked, and I knew I needed software. Before I had a truck, before I had employees, before I had anything, I got software from the beginning. And I literally know, because I made that choice, is why now I've got several trucks, bunch of crews running, because I started right from the beginning.
He hit the ground running and did it right.
Yeah. and I think that is in every industry. Like, I have a bunch of rental properties now. When I got my first rental property, I got a CRM for managing my rental properties, for doing my, where my tenants can go in and pay their rent, where my tenants can go in and submit tickets and stuff. I had one rental at the time. Now I've got tons, but like, I wanted to do it right and treat it like it's a business. And to be honest with you, if you can't afford $150 a month for a software, I love you, but you probably need to find somewhere else to, you need to find another industry, because if you can't afford $150 to grow your company, you're doing something wrong in your business, and I know we can help you. So anyway, so that's good for that one. It looks like we got a couple about Lion's Den. Let me just throw this out there again real quick. If you want to call in, phone number is 321-832-8225. Numbers on the bottom of the screen. So let's see. You see some up there, Nick. You want to pick one? What is Lion's Den booking service, and how does it work? You want to talk about that one? Obviously, I think we've talked about it in several other ones, but I don't think you need to go long into it. But
we did kind of mention this earlier, but our Lion's Den is here to book you jobs. We know that a lot of companies are really a one-man show, and you are actually on jobs as an owner. So let us actually handle the sales portion for you. All the calls that are going to come to us, we're going to try and book those jobs. We're using your MoveitPro software to do so.
We're not going to try and book them.
Try.
Yeah, we're going to book them.
We will be booking your jobs. And we actually do use your MoveitPro software to do so. We want to make sure that everything in your software is completely accurate. We don't want to negotiate with your customers. Whatever your system is saying the price of the job is going to be, that's what we're going with.
Yeah.
And honestly, our close rate has been above 60%.
Yeah, it's
months now. It's unreal.
Yeah.
Even individual employees have all met their goals and been past their goals.
Yeah.
So I'm extremely proud of how the call center is going right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all of our call center people are pretty excited based on their bonuses lately.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
commissions just came out.
Yeah, which is really good. But to add to that, so you obviously brought up the guy that's maybe sometimes going out on the truck, but a lot of our customers that use call center or Lion's Den, they're big companies. Like they close at 5:00.
Yeah.
And they want someone to answer their calls after 5.
Yep. And on the weekends, we are here Saturday, Sunday on the weekends. And a lot of our companies, especially the bigger ones, are just night times and weekends. And then our smaller companies, we actually handle all through the day,
and
8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
And then the third set of customers is the overflow. You want to talk about that?
So we actually have quite a few that they like their sales reps and they didn't want to get rid of their sales reps, but it's one guy. and he can't handle 3 calls that are coming.
I mean,
at
a couple
once.
of them have like 4 or 5 reps, but
Yeah.
the point being for overflow is that if you're a moving company, let me rephrase that. If you are any company, and a customer calls your phone number to get an estimate, this is a hot customer, and they hit voicemail or they sit on hold for 15 minutes,
They're gone.
they're gone. Like, they're gone. You just missed the opportunity right here. We're booking between 60 and 70%. You lost that customer 60%. That's huge. Like, so the point being is what a lot of these companies are doing to test the waters is, look, you know, I want to see how it's going to go. I want to listen to your calls, which, by the way, are all recorded. You can literally log into MoveitPro. The second the call's over with, listen to the call.
Which I don't think anybody else has.
No one else does that. Talk about transparency. Like there's no bullshit. Like, there's no like, oh, we called the guy 20 times, but we have no proof. Like, no, you can see everything. Listen to the call. Listen to our team. Listen to how we speak to them. So, but going into that, like, they'll start off and if their call center, in-house call center, so they're sales guys, if the phone rings more than 4 times, boom, the calls come to us. Our agents pick up within seconds. People don't wait on hold. So longest hold might be maybe, longest, rarely a minute.
I would say
like,
less.
I mean, it's in our call center, we have a huge monitor, shows anyone that's in queue if there is, and an alarm starts going off at 45 seconds.
Yep.
Like, you hear it beeping if there's someone sitting in queue. So, and then obviously we have a manager that's managing the reps, managing stuff going on. So in my opinion, we, for the most part, I think, can run a tighter ship and a tighter sales department than you would be able to do in-house.
Right.
Because unless you're doing, $50 million a year as a moving company, you don't have the resources to have a team of 25 people answering your calls so you never hit voicemail, managers training the people, all the people are in sales training, all of those people are held accountable, all of those people, and here's the best part about it. If they don't book anything, do you pay anything?
Not at all.
Not a penny. We only make money if we book. So, like, it's a win-win. So that's a big part of the Lion's Den. I'm pretty passionate about it and pretty excited about it because we didn't have it when we were young. And I'll last rant on that and then move on. But my father, with me as a kid, worked a lot. So he during that time with my grandmother, built J&J Metro Moving and Storage to be a multi-million-dollar moving company. And even then, my dad was working 60, 70 hours a week. So my dad was a great dad. I'm not saying that, but he worked 60, 70 hours a week. Don't get me wrong. The moving company provided an amazing life. We had a house on the beach. We had a lake house. We had, nice cars. We had a good living. So obviously it came to be good. But the whole point of it is that, if he had something like this, Lion's Den, to be able to take calls on weekends, be able to not have to do all the work of running a sales department and doing all that stuff, 100% he would have done it. And I would have seen my dad more. And so,
exactly.
How many of you have children and stuff that we could help with because we have a team? So anyway, it looks like we do have a caller. So let's go ahead and call him in. Looks like Scott, and wanted to learn about the software. So I want to let Nick go ahead and take this. Hello, Scott, you there? Hello? Maybe? Says he's from Melbourne, Florida.
Yeah.
Let me know if he comes back on, Steve. I think he was waiting a few minutes. Anyway, phone number 321-832-8225. Shows he's still connected, but I don't hear anything. So let's go ahead. Let's go on to the next one. Our goal is not to drag this thing out. Our goal is to come on here, answer questions if you guys have stuff, throw whatever you want at us, and see how we can help. Scott, you there? Nope. Okay.
Nope.
So let's just go through. So what advice would you give someone considering a career in the moving industry? Let's go, Nick. Let you start that one.
Well, we've gone over CRM, gone over Lion's Den.
So, I mean, I think there's a couple things there. So, a lot of people start off with renting trucks, and I think that sometimes that's a necessity based on the cash flow that you have and maybe the means that you have as far as capital to start the company. But you need to get into a lettered truck as fast as possible. I'll tell you, I know, and I don't have the exact statistic on me right now, but I would bet you, 5 to 10% minimum of our jobs for J&J Metro came from people to see in our truck.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to it than that. There's so much more. You show up to someone's house in a U-Haul. It is again, we're talking about that first feeling the customer feels. It's a completely different feeling than you showing up in a lettered up, even if it's, a 15-year-old truck. I'm not saying go buy a brand new $200,000 truck.
They expect it to be a 15-year-old truck.
Yeah, and that's what we ran. We used to run old Hinos. We used to run old Internationals. One of our best trucks was like a 2000 International, huge big box, and we loved those trucks. And they did a great job. Majority of our jobs were local though, so it made sense. If we were going to California or something, I wouldn't send obviously that older of a truck, but that's one of the first things. Number two, all your guys need to be in uniforms. That's a cheap thing for you to be able to do, especially starting off, that you never falter on. Our guys, every single guy, they came in Dickies, so gray Dickies, and they wore, we had red performance polos, not t-shirts. We had red performance polos with J&J Metro on it. When they showed up, they looked super professional. In our office at the warehouse, they were required to bring those. So we would give them a couple of the shirts, depending on how many hours they were. We'd give them a few of those. And then most of them had no problem buying Dickies. But so they'd come in, and if they didn't have what they needed, we'd give them another one, or if it like repeat offender, not bringing in their uniform, they either go home or you got to buy one, like from the, J&J Metro store, which we had them in stock. But when we went out to jobs, you 100% were in uniform.
Yep.
So they think maybe Scott's there. Hey, Scott, you there? No? Scott?
Choices have been in for over 3 minutes, almost 4 minutes now.
Nope, still not there, Steve. It's all right. So how important is customer service in the moving industry, and how can companies excel in this area?
That's really just this day. I mean, people expect to be treated like kings wherever they go.
Yeah.
So we always have to have that better service, go above and beyond, make it easy for them. Be all about service, not about an order taker.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I think customer service is a huge driver in any business. And this is something that, as time has gone on, in every industry has. But for those of you that have Chick-fil-A in your cities, you're going to know what I'm about to say. You compare going through a drive-through at McDonald's or Wendy's to a drive-through at Chick-fil-A. Completely different. Which one's more expensive?
Not by.
Do you know why they can? But they can. 100%. You go through Chick-fil-A, they're going to say, I worked at Chick-fil-A. I got fired from Chick-fil-A. One of the employees in the back talked about my mama, and we got in a fist fight in the back, throwing grease. Anyways, I was like 15. So, but sorry. The Chick-fil-A, you are instilled. They hire young kids. They teach them about customer service from the beginning. And you are required. You will get fired, but you are required that when a customer says thank you, do you know what they have to say? My pleasure. No ifs. No, you have to say it. You can't say you're welcome. You have to say my pleasure. But that is how important customer service is to them. It's much more than that. Obviously, them, the employee replying back and saying, oh, you're welcome, is still acceptable in any other industry, and you would feel pretty much the same. But they instill it so much into their people because they want the customer to feel it. They want customers like you and me to say, Dude, their customer service is so amazing that their employees literally will say the exact same thing to you every single time you say thank you. Every single time, without falter. And so that was, that was a really cool, interesting job for me I had when I was a kid. And it was only like a few months. But anyways, it was good in the sense of their customer service there is phenomenal. And it is true. Most of the employees at Chick-fil-A are younger. I'm talking like high school to 22, 23 for their average employees, but they're getting them when they're pure and they haven't had a bunch of other jobs to be instilled in already shitty customer service. And I think that's where we've had success here is finding people that just have amazing attitudes and mindsets. And those are the people we continually bring into our company rather than someone that has 20 years of experience. Because typically, not always, typically the person with 20 years of experience has been taught or
they're really set in their ways.
They're set in the ways of how companies are now doing things. So it's an interesting philosophy. Customer service is very important. I think that you need to treat your customers like you would your family. You need to treat them in the sense of you need to do what's right. You need to be respectful to them. You need to show up on time. You need to do a fair job for a fair price. And you need to ask for the business. You need to be, you need to do what you need to do. So that way, that customer, before they hire you, after they hire you, during the move, and after the move, is happy they made the decision to go with your company over 2 Men in a Truck, College Hunks, all the other ones. And not that they're bad, but, that they're happy they went with you.
Yep. If I'm hiring someone, even for a sales rep, I'd rather hire a restaurant or customer service person over a salesperson. I can teach you sales. I can't teach you to be nice to customers.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's other things. In our salespeople, we want them to be, they can't be scared of the phone.
Yeah.
They need to be able to take charge. So they need to be able to be okay asking for the sale and being a little pushy. And when I say pushy, I don't mean used car salesman pushy, but pushy in the sense of they're pushy because my reps are instilled that if you don't use our service or our moving company that we, if you're in Lionsden booking service, we've run you through your paces. We make sure you got decent reviews. We make sure you're legit, you're licensed, you're insured. We make sure all these things. So our reps know when they are talking to a customer that you're going with a reputable moving company. They make sure, obviously they're representing that company. They're answering the phone as that moving company, but we are instilling into them that there's rogue movers out there. And we don't want this 75-year-old grandma that's calling in that needs to move to a nursing home or needs to move stuff in her house. We want to make sure we are the ones that are booking her job with a moving company that's licensed and insured rather than her calling the next guy, which might be a rogue mover that's going to rip her off.
Right.
And that's what we mean by being, we're a little bit on the hard sales on that because we want to make sure customers are taken care of properly.
Yep.
And so I think that's a big part of what we do and how we do it. So let's see. We probably will go just a little bit longer, but we're probably reaching our end. We've had so many people submit so much online. Let's see if any other ones came in. What are key trends you see shaping in the future of the movie industry? So this is one that you could go a bunch of different ways, right? But the trend that I spend a lot of time on thinking about, investigating, and reading and watching and stuff on is when is the moving industry going to get back to a wealthy career path rather than all of these movers that are busting their ass and making pennies because there's not enough moves happening. And so obviously the elephant in the room is the interest rates, which is the big thing. And so I'm a pretty firm believer in a couple things that I think are going to happen. Could I be wrong? Absolutely. I've been wrong about a lot of things in the past, but there's no question that I am pro-Trump based on the economy. Doesn't mean I would be his best friend. Doesn't mean that I think he's the best person in the world, but I think he did a great job during the last time of when he was in office as far as Businesses were doing good. Obviously, he got hit with COVID during his presidency, which throws a lot of statistics off, which a lot of people want to aim on. But the reality is, before COVID, I think we were in one of the strongest economies that we had. Nick worked with us. The moving industry, for the most part, I think was doing very well.
Yeah.
And I like to see my friends winning. I like to see the people that we work with winning. And so I'm a firm believer that when Trump gets in, interest rates are going to drop down. I don't think we're going to see the 2% interest range again. I think we're probably going to be in the 4s or 5s. But when that happens, based on history repeating itself, I think there's going to be an influx of buyers, which is amazing for us movers. Because when there's an influx of buyers, there will be an influx of sellers because people are going to be selling their home to buy the next home. And when that happens, someone's got to move all those people. Here's the good news. Probably, a fifth of moving companies, or eighth, something like that, have gone out of business over the last 2 years because of the shitty economy, because of the interest rates. And so when that happens, there's going to be influx of so much business that moving companies that are operating right now are going to have, probably to the point where you're going to be busting at your seams, which was very similar to what happened with a lot of moving companies during COVID, because so many people were moving during COVID. Everyone was getting stimulus money. People could work from home. So everyone was moving to what state they actually wanted to live in. And so all these movers had a bit influx. So I think that's going to happen again. In addition to that, I think house prices are going to skyrocket again because you're going to have bidding wars again. You're going to have people that have been holding out for 2 years, 3 years to buy a new home. And now you're going to have 20 people trying to get the same home. And what happens with that home's $300,000 and you got 20 people looking to buy it, the sellers are going to bid it up. I mean, it's going to get bidded up. So I'm not saying that's a great thing, but the point being is I think the economy is going to start correcting itself. We see it a little bit in flux already, which is really good. Obviously, interest rates have not come down much at all, but we are seeing some moving companies starting to do good again, which I think is really good. Do we have that caller back in?
I was say it looks like another.
All right. I think he just popped off.
Just disappeared.
That's funny. All right. Well, we need to figure that out.
I'll give him a call after this.
Yeah, it would be good for him to be on here. So what are the most important qualities for a moving company to have to ensure long-term? So, and this will probably be the last question here. So, I mean, I think one of the most important things, there's a lot, right? So, I mean, we could go down this little rabbit hole, but in my opinion of any business, I think one of the most important things is you as an owner, your work ethic needs to be unbelievable. You need to be willing to work 70 hours a week. And now we're talking about, a new moving company starting off, right? Like you need to set the expectations of busting your butt and doing the right thing and treating customers properly. You need to stay away from debt as much as possible. I have watched truly between the 2008 crash and then this time, I bet you I know of at least 100 moving companies throughout the country that have filed bankruptcy and gone out of business because they went out and financed brand new buildings that they could afford. Don't get me wrong. They 100% could afford them when the economy was good. And then as soon as the interest rates went up, they lost their ass. I think that's in any business, you got to be careful of that. And especially in the moving industry, because we are a seasonal industry somewhat, right? But then mixed with, we're so tightly knit to the housing market, and the housing market always does this. And so you got to think about that. I'm not saying don't buy a building. I'm not saying any of that. I think that is the biggest wealth creation is purchasing your own land, building a building, owning your own trucks. All of those things I think is wealth creation. And I have done it. We have done it with our company, but you need to make sure that you can afford that and you're not stretching so thin. I will say this in business, and I've done this personally. You often can on paper afford to do something, but if shit hits the fan, you can't afford it anymore. And what I mean by that is like buying a building, buying new property, hiring 20 employees, right? Whatever the situation is, you need to make sure that you don't take such a risk that you could take down the entire company if something changes beyond your control. So you can't control the interest rates. You can't control the housing market. So if you purchase a building and it's using up, 80% of your current profit and it's a good economy, that's a bad decision. Yeah. Because as soon as the economy goes down 20, 30%, you're screwed. So I think that's a big part of, as far as we're talking long-term growth. What else you got, Nick?
Honestly, everyone wants those big 4 or 5 bedroom homes.
Yep.
Don't feel bad about taking the 1 studio apartment moves.
Yeah.
They're going to add up. And as long as you have jobs for your guys to do, I would much rather have 4 small jobs in a day than not take a job because I'm waiting on that 4 bedroom house.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. And we had specific crews that, they would mostly just do studios and apartments. And, we were able to double stack their jobs. And don't get me wrong. Yeah, 100%. We wanted the bigger homes. They're more profitable. They're usually better customers. They're more laid back. They're not bitching about the bill. They're, but we didn't turn down apartments. We did apartments all day long. Orlando has a decent amount of luxury apartments. I'm sure most cities that you're in do. Some of our apartments cost as much monthly as if you were to rent a nice house.
A lot of them nowadays.
Because they're in 40-story buildings. But the point being, those are good jobs that they're going to keep your crew busy. Your truck's going to be parked out in front of that beautiful building.
Other people are going to see it.
Other people are going to see it. You get referral, repeat. You need to stop looking at your customers as one job. They're not one job. They're one job them, but then when they tell their friends who they moved with, and when they tell all the other things that revolve around them, and the relationship you build with them creates more jobs.
Yep.
And I would, our referral and repeat business was astronomical for J&J Metro. We've been in business over 50 years. I remember getting calls with our sales team of someone calling in and being like, hey, a little old guy calling in and being like, I used you guys 30 years ago. My wife went through the filing cabinet and pulled my old invoice, and that's how I had your guys' phone number. Like, that's huge. This guy used us 30 years ago. We thought he was only one job, right? No, 30 years later, books with us again. But the point being, obviously, they're a lot closer together than that usually. People are moving more than every 30 years, but that was a big thing for us. So
that brought up another point. Actually have your guys have some cards too.
Yeah.
Because while they're on site doing a move, all the time people will come up to them like, since I'm seeing you guys, I got a move I need to do. Give them a card.
Yeah.
So
that's perfect. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this live stream. We do have a podcast that just hit, I think it was yesterday or the day before, which was with the Lone Arranger, which is my yacht buddy. He has a yacht at the same marina as me, and he is a mortgage broker, owns a big firm, over 35 years. And we talked some pretty good stuff as far as things that you wouldn't really think that a normal mortgage broker would discuss, as far as creative financing, things that are out there for self-employed, him not caring about you having a creative accountant. If really you're making $500,000 a year and your taxes say 30, options he has for people like, business owners for buying real estate, buying investment properties. And that's another thing, obviously, and then we're going to end this, but a big part of my wealth creation has been real estate. And I think that's a big part of, building a successful company and a successful brand, and then obviously creating a legacy. So thank you guys so much. We'll tune into you next time.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning into our podcast. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and get notified each time a new one comes out. We'll see you next time. I think we're still live.
Oops.